When I turned 18 years old, one of the top things on my to-do list was to get my own credit card. I wanted the credit card so badly that pretty much right after my 18th birthday, I went out and applied for several different cards. I actually ended up getting the first card that I applied for, which was a Capital One card, and they initially gave me a credit limit of $500. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Bordenero and welcome to my YouTube channel. I was so psyched to get my first credit card that I started using it. And who wouldn't, right? When you're 18 years old, you just want to use a credit card and be like, hey, I don't have the money, but let's just charge it and see how it goes. This is fun. It's nice to buy things and spend money. But quickly that turned out to be a problem. After a few short months of having the card, I quickly found out that getting into debt wasn't really that fun. I ended up with a bill that I couldn't pay and already had to start paying some interest payments. So fast forward from 18 years old to being about 22 years old, I had moved from Belvedere to Miami Beach at the time, and I had accumulated within those few years about $5,000 in credit card debt. And being only 22 years old, that was a huge amount of money for me, and I felt like I was really in trouble. How am I going to pay this off? What am I going to do? But I decided I was going to pay off the card and that I wasn't going to be taken down by this credit card debt. So the first thing I did was I called my credit card companies and I asked them if they would lower my interest rate. Needless to say, their answer was no. They were not very friendly with me at all, and I basically told them that I would never do business with them again and that they would lose a customer for life. And I'm proud to say that one of those companies was Capital One, and ever since then I've never had a Capital One credit card, bank account, or any other Capital One product, and I never will. And I'm happy to say that. So once I realized that my current credit card companies were not going to be helpful and not going to work with me, I decided to look elsewhere. And basically what I did is I found a few different credit cards that offered 0% interest for the first 12 or 18 months. I can't remember exactly which it was, and that they would let you do a balance transfer to the new card, and the balance transfer fee would be somewhere around 2 or 3% of your current balance. But I pretty much did the math and realized that that would far outweigh the benefits. Having to pay that small balance transfer fee was very minimal to me versus having to pay roughly a 19% interest rate over the course of the debt. So since I was still very young, only 22 years old, I wasn't able to get any credit cards with a high balance limit, so I actually had to get a couple of different cards and do 2 different balance transfers in order to wipe out my full amount of balance that I owed on my old cards and transfer it to the new cards. So I was happy to pay that 2 or 3% balance transfer fee and actually get my interest rate lowered to 0. So from there, what I decided to do was pay off every single month as much as I could on both of those cards. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, but basically I would put towards any amount that I could to those cards every month, pretty much whatever I could afford. Whatever made sense that month, I would put it towards the credit card bill and try to chip away at that balance. So even though I was paying as much as I could every month, it still wasn't enough. Basically, I was putting towards any extra income I had towards that debt, but it was a very small amount every month, maybe like $100, maybe a little more than $100. It wasn't a lot. So I actually had to go through this process more than once. I would actually keep track of when that credit card was going to expire with the 0% interest, and the month before it expired, I would apply for a new card and repeat the process and do it all over again. So whenever the 0% interest period was almost over, I would transfer the balance from the old card to yet again another card for 0% interest for about a year or so and do the same thing again. And I had to basically rinse and repeat this process for several years with several different cards in order to actually get the debt fully paid off. Fast forward to being about 27 years old and I finally got the debt paid off. Woohoo! I was so happy to get the debt paid off. I think we even went out for like a celebratory dinner or something like that night, and it was just an amazing feeling because after being sucked down by that debt for close to 10 years and then finally getting it paid off, It felt like such a huge accomplishment. A big weight was lifted off my shoulders and I felt free again. A couple of very important factors that I need to mention that actually helped me get out of debt are a couple of things. Is one, it took a lot of patience and persistence. I started accumulating this debt when I was 18 years old and I didn't get out of it until I was 27 years old. So it was almost 10 years basically, because I think I was about almost 28 actually by the time I got the cards paid off. So it was really close to 10 years, and being 10 years weighed down by this debt and finally being free was truly amazing, but it did take a lot of time and a lot of persistence. And the number two thing that helped me throughout this process was the desire to really get out of debt. And because I was so driven to get out of debt, I made sure not to go into new debt. I never used the credit cards after that. I stopped accumulating any kind of debt I could possibly accumulate. I didn't charge anything at the store. I would pay cash for anything that I needed to buy, and basically just stopped using the credit cards altogether. So I'm extremely happy to report that now at 32 years old, I'm completely debt free, and I have been for the last 5 years, and I totally intend to keep it that way. And now, one of the coolest things about credit cards is I still use them, and I use them to my advantage. Now the credit cards pay me. And I'm sure you probably are aware of this, but a lot of credit card companies will actually give you cash back on your purchases. So I have a couple of different cards that I use. The main card that I use is my Citi Double Cash card, and that one gives me literally 2% cash back on every single purchase I make, and that really adds up to be quite a bit. So I actually charge every expense I possibly can to it throughout the month that I normally need to buy, like groceries, gas, bills, whatever I can, I charge it to the card. I accumulate that cash back through the credit card company, and I end up redeeming that money and saving it every single month in my savings account, and I pay 0% interest while getting that 2% cash back. So it's really a win-win for me, and this is really the smartest way to be using a credit card. Is you find a card that pays you a decent amount of cash back, you use it to pay as many expenses as you can, and then you pay off the balance in full each month, and you will never pay a dime in interest. So if you're finding yourself in this situation where you've been in debt for many years and you can't get out, you need to do a couple of things. First, you have to stop charging any new debt. You have to start paying off the debt that you already have. Second, you need to find a way that you can get your interest rate lowered. You could try and call your credit card companies and see if that will help, but it didn't help me. And the easiest way to lower your interest rate is just to transfer that balance from one card to the next. And that's what I did. I had to do that over and over again, but eventually I was able to do it enough times and get the debt paid off with very minimal amount of interest, only that 2 or 3% balance transfer fee that they would initially charge. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found the information I shared with you today helpful. If you are in debt, one thing I recommend is to get out as soon as you can. You really don't want to put off getting out of debt. The longer you stay in debt, the harder it's going to be to get out of debt. And it really is a truly freeing experience to relieve yourself from the debt. And it's a very satisfying feeling that you were able to pay it off after all of these years being stuck in debt. And you learn from your mistakes. You learn what not to do. And staying in debt is definitely something not to do. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.